You know, usually when I'm prepping for one of these, I'm wading through dense policy documents or spreadsheets, maybe a history book. But for today's session, my primary source material was, and I'm not kidding, a picture of a golden retriever puppy.
It's a very cute puppy, to be fair.
It is an objectively adorable puppy.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this photo, and then I'm looking at the stack of analysis you sent over, and I'm struggling to connect the dots. We're supposed to be talking about a massive labor war in professional sports, potentially billions of dollars on the line, and the inciting incident is a dog photo.
It sounds completely absurd, I know, it really does. But this is one of those classic butterfly effect moments.
Right.
You know, a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and causes a tornado in Texas. Well, in this case, a golden retriever wagged its tail on social media, and it essentially dismantled the leverage of a major labor union.
Okay, that is a hell of a hook. So let's back up. Let's set the stage before we get to the puppy. Where are we right now? It's January 21st, 2026. What is the climate in the WNBA?
The climate is frigid and tense. We are deep in the weeds of the collective bargaining agreement negotiations, the CBA.
And for anyone who doesn't follow the business side of sports, the CBA is what?
It's the master contract. It's the document between the league and the players' union that decides everything. Salaries, travel standards, benefits, how revenue is shared, everything.
And this isn't just a routine every few years negotiation, right? This one feels different.
Oh, not even close. This is the first negotiation since what everyone is calling the boom.
The Caitlin Clark effect.
The Caitlin Clark effect, the Angel Reese effect, this massive influx of attention and money that has just flooded the league. So the WNBA Players Association, the WNBPA, is pushing for the moon.
And based on the revenue growth, you could argue they deserve it.
Absolutely. The reporting I've seen, based on our source material, suggests they're asking for a 700% increase in the salary cap.
700%. That's not a raise. That's a different tax bracket. That's a different universe entirely.
It is. And to get a number that big, you need leverage. You need a threat. And the only real threat a union has in sports is the nuclear option.
Strike.
The strike. The threat that says we will not play the 2026 season unless you meet our demands.
So just to recap the mood, tense negotiations happening behind closed doors. Headlines are all about a potential strike. Fans are nervous. Sponsors are nervous. Everyone is afraid the season might just poof, disappear.
Exactly. And then a fan posts a photo of their dog.
Okay, here we go.
Right. A fan goes on social media, posts a picture of their brand new puppy, super cute. They name the dog CC.
After Caitlin Clark, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And, 99 times out of 100, this is just nice, wholesome internet content.
Yeah.
A star sees it, maybe they like it, everyone moves on. But Caitlin Clark sees it, and she replies.
I saw the reply. It was incredibly short.
6 words. That's all it was. Both are welcome courtside this year.
Both are welcome courtside this year. Okay. When I first read that, my reaction was, oh, that's nice. She wants to meet the dog. Why is this the butterfly effect? Why is this a bomb?
You have to look at the grammar. You have to be a language detective here. Look at the specific phrasing. This year?
Not hopefully.
Not hopefully I'll see you. Not if we get a deal done. Not assuming there's a season. She said with absolute certainty, both are welcome courtside this year.
It's a guarantee. It's a statement of fact.
It is a statement of absolute certainty from the single most important person in the entire ecosystem. And you have to understand the context. We are sitting here in January. The union is working overtime, spending money on PR to convince sponsors, TV networks, and the owners that the season is in real jeopardy.
They need that fear.
They need that fear. They need the networks to panic and pressure the league to just cut the check.
Yeah.
They need sponsors to start sweating about the millions they've already committed to ad buys.
And then the face of the league, the person all that money is built around, just casually tweets out, yeah, don't worry, we're playing.
Exactly. It sucks all the oxygen right out of the room. It just deflates the entire threat. If Caitlin Clark isn't worried about the season being canceled, why should a sneaker executive be worried? Why should a TV producer be worried? It wasn't just a tweet about a dog. It was a signal flare to the entire business world that the strike threat is, well, empty.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Is it possible we are overanalyzing this? I mean, she's, what, in her early 20s? Maybe she was just scrolling her phone, saw a cute dog, and fired off a reply without thinking about the, the geopolitical labor implications of her grammar.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Wow.
Was it a slip-up? Was it just an innocent off-the-cuff remark?
Right.
The source material we're diving into today argues very, very strongly that the answer is no.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark doesn't really do casual anymore. Not at this level. We have to stop viewing her as just a basketball player.
How should we view her then?
As a multinational corporation, she is Caitlin Clark, Inc.
She has a whole team around her, I assume, an apparatus.
A massive team. Agents, brand managers, PR consultants, lawyers. Every single piece of public communication is weighed and measured, especially now, in the middle of a high-stakes labor dispute. The analysis in our source material doesn't frame this as a slip. It calls it a strategically placed bomb aimed directly at the WNBA negotiating committee.
So you're saying she's intentionally undermining her own union. That's a pretty heavy charge.
I think undermining is one way to put it. Another way is that she is signaling that the strike narrative is over, that it's not a productive path forward. And the key thing is, she's not the only one doing it. This is where the story shifts from just one player, one tweet, to what the source calls the Coalition of Certainty.
I like that title. It sounds like a superhero team. So who else is in this coalition?
Well, who's the other biggest name in the league? Look to the other side of the rivalry.
Angel Reese.
Angel Reese. And, typically, Reese and Clark don't agree on much. Or at least that's the narrative the fans and media love.
Right, they're positioned as polar opposites.
But in this case, their business interests are perfectly aligned. Angel Reese gave a press conference just last week. Was she talking about a lockout? Was she talking about labor stoppage? No. She was laying out the quarterly goals for the Chicago Sky. She was talking about making the playoffs, transforming the roster, winning specific games in 2026.
She's talking like the season is already on the calendar, like it's a done deal.
She is talking like a CEO discussing Q3 projections. It's all forward-looking. When you have the two biggest revenue drivers in the entire sport, Clark and Reese both speaking about the 2026 season as a foregone conclusion, it just destroys the union's ability to bluff. It's a coordinated message, whether it was explicitly coordinated or not.
It's interesting you use the term revenue drivers. The source material had this fascinating ranking of the real power players in the league, and I was expecting to see, the union president or maybe the league commissioner.
Nope. That's the old way of thinking. In modern sports, the power has shifted away from the institutions and towards the individuals. The source lists the top 5 power brokers who are actually deciding the fate of this season. Number 1 is Caitlin Clark.
No surprise there.
Number 2 is Angel Reese. Number 3 is Sabrina Ionescu. Number 4 is Aja Wilson.
Okay, that all makes sense. Those are the faces of the league, the established superstars.
But look at number 5. This is the one that really highlights how unique this moment is. This is the tell.
Paige Buchers.
Paige Buchers.
Who hasn't played a single minute in the WNBA yet. She's still technically a rookie coming in this year. How is she more powerful than the entire union leadership?
Because she represents the next wave. She's not just a player, she's a future revenue stream. The networks, ESPN, Amazon, NBC, they have modeled their financial projections on her arrival. They are banking on the Paige effect following the Caitlin effect.
So future earnings are already priced in?
They are already on the books. If you are a TV executive who just signed a billion-dollar broadcast deal, you are not going to let a labor dispute stop Paige Buchers from making her debut. The league knows this. The union knows this. The source argues that the collective influence of these 5 women completely dwarfs the collective bargaining power of the committee.
So if these 5 women say, we are playing then, we're playing. End of story.
Essentially, yes. It has become a star-driven system, but there is a force that's even bigger than the stars.
Okay.
We've talked about the players. Now we need to talk about the bankroll, the entity that signs the checks.
The outline calls this the 6th force.
The 6th force.
Nike. Okay, so I know Nike is a massive sponsor. They sponsor everyone. But the source material treats them like they are the puppet masters here. How much influence can a shoe company really have on a labor union negotiation?
Influence might be too soft a word. It's more like a gravitational pull. You have to really understand the sheer scale of the money involved here. Nike hasn't just invested in the WNBA. They have invested an astronomical amount specifically in Caitlin Clark.
We all saw the headlines about her deal. It was reported as, what, $28 million?
That was the initial number that got leaked. But when you factor in the marketing spend, the production, the global distribution, the signature line, the source argues that Nike's total investment in Caitlin Clark alone is likely greater than the actual valuation of most WNBA franchises.
Wait, say that again? You're saying her shoe deal is worth more than the actual team she's playing against?
In terms of liquid cash and marketing committal, yes.
Yeah.
That's the argument. Nike has bet the farm on her. She is their golden goose. So now put yourself in the boardroom at Nike headquarters in Oregon. You have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into launching this new era of women's basketball. Are you going to just sit back and let a dispute over salary caps incinerate that investment?
No, absolutely not. You protect the asset.
You protect the asset with extreme prejudice. And we have concrete proof that they are doing exactly that. The source calls it the Super Bowl indicator.
This was the part of the research that really blew my mind. Walk us through this because it feels like a smoking gun.
It absolutely is. So the Super Bowl is coming up, February 9th, 2026. As you know, a 30-second ad spot during the Super Bowl costs. What's it going right now? $7-8 million.
Something insane like that. And that's before you even pay to produce the commercial itself.
Right. It is the most expensive, most high-stakes piece of marketing real estate on the planet.
Right.
You don't buy a Super Bowl ad on a whim. These things are planned 12 to 18 months in advance. The media buying, the creative concepts, it all happens way, way ahead of time.
And what did the source find out?
Nike is planning to debut Caitlin Clark's first signature shoe, the CC1, during a Super Bowl commercial.
During the game.
During the broadcast. Now, let's just apply some basic business logic here. If there was even a 10% chance that the WNBA season was going to be canceled or even delayed by a strike, would Nike spend upwards of $15 million launching a shoe for a player in a league that isn't playing?
No. That would be marketing malpractice. It's like advertising a movie that's never coming out. You'd be advertising a product nobody can see in action.
Exactly. You don't launch a product into a void.
Oh.
The fact that the marketing machine is already moving, that the media buys are locked in, that the commercial is likely already shot, it tells us that Nike isn't guessing. They know. They know the season's happening.
It implies that the conversations happening behind closed doors between Nike and the league are very, very different from the scary headlines the union is trying to put out.
Oh, completely different conversations. The source uses a very specific phrase here. It says Nike's power in this situation is unfathomable.
Unfathomable.
And it gives a hypothetical that really drives this home. Think about the upcoming Team USA national camp in March. The source suggests that if the USA Basketball Selection Committee, for some crazy reason, decided to leave Caitlin Clark off the roster, Nike has the leverage to literally pull their multi-million-dollar sponsorship deals from the entire federation on the spot.
Wow. That is ruthless.
It's not just ruthless, it's the reality of modern sports business. Entities the size of Nike and Caitlin Clark Inc., they don't negotiate, they dictate. And the dictate right now is crystal clear. The 2026 season will start on time.
Okay, so if the season is a lock and the stars know it and the corporate overlords at Nike know it, what on earth is the union doing? Because I saw the headline, WNBPA votes 97% to authorize strike. That sounds terrifying. That sounds like an army ready to march into battle.
It sounds great on a press release, doesn't it? It's designed to sound terrifying. But we need to stop and actually explain what a strike authorization vote is. Because I think the general public and even a lot of sports fans will misunderstand this.
Yeah, please clarify. Does 97% mean that 97% of the players genuinely want to go on strike and miss the season?
No, absolutely not. It's a fundamental misunderstanding. Think of it like this. Imagine you're going into a really dangerous negotiation and you give your lawyer permission to use a nuclear threat to get a better deal. You aren't telling him, I want you to press the button. You're just saying, I authorize you to put your hand on the button to show them we're serious.
So it's granting permission to make the threat. It's not a vote to actually do it.
Exactly. It is a procedural vote. It gives the negotiating committee the authority to call a strike if they feel it's the absolute last resort. It is simply loading the gun. It doesn't mean you have any intention of pulling the trigger.
But still, 97% is a huge number. That's almost unanimous. If most players don't actually want to strike, why did they all vote yes?
This is what the source material calls the villain problem. And you have to look at the social dynamics inside a locker room, inside a union. Imagine you are a rookie player, or maybe a journeyman player on a one-year non-guaranteed contract.
Someone living paycheck to paycheck, relatively speaking.
Right. You don't have a multi-million-dollar Nike deal. You need the salary. A strike, missing a full season of pay, would be catastrophic for you and your family. But then the union rep stands up in the meeting and says, we need to show unity. We need to show the league we are strong and united. We need a yes vote to scare them into a better deal.
And everyone's looking at you.
Everyone is looking. Are you, the rookie, going to be the one person out of 144 players who raises their hand and says no?
No way. You'd be a pariah. You'd be labeled a scab before there's even a strike to break.
You'd be seen as a traitor to the cause. So what do? You vote yes. You vote yes for your own survival within the group, and for optics, you go along to get along. The source argues this 97% is a survival vote, not a mandate for war. It is, in many ways, pure theater.
So the union is holding a gun that everyone, including the league, including Nike, knows isn't really loaded.
Or maybe it's loaded, but everyone knows the person holding it is too afraid to shoot. Look at the math. The source lays out what it calls the mathematics of leverage. The union's stated goal is that 700% raise.
Which, again, sounds aspirational.
It's a huge number. Without the threat of a strike, maybe the league offers 300%. Which, by the way, is still a historic, life-changing increase for these women. It would be a massive win. But to get from 300% to 700%, you need the drama. You need the panic.
But Caitlin Clark and the puppy killed the panic.
Precisely. That is why the puppy tweet matters so much. The union is trying to build this very fragile house of cards called panic, and Caitlin Clark just opened a window and let a huge gust of wind in. When the panic evaporates, the leverage disappears with it.
But surely the union had a plan B. I remember hearing a lot of noise about Unrivaled, this new 3-on-3 league founded by Breanna Stewart and Afiza Collier. The public pitch was, hey, if the WNBA locks us out or we have to strike, we can just go play in Unrivaled year-round. It's player-owned, the salaries are supposedly high. Isn't that a legitimate alternative, a real threat?
That is what the source calls the fallacy of the alternative. It sounds fantastic in a boardroom pitch deck, right? We don't need the WNBA's infrastructure. We have our own league. It's a powerful idea. It is, but here's the problem. We have data now. The first season of Unrivaled just wrapped up. We don't have to speculate anymore.
Okay, so how did it do?
To be blunt, it was a major reality check. The source describes the viewership numbers as paltry.
Give me the numbers.
They averaged around 30,000 viewers per game.
30,000. Okay, for context, what does an average WNBA regular season game get these days?
A standard WNBA game on a major network is now pulling in well over 1 million viewers. A marquee Caitlin Clark game can do 2 million, sometimes more. 30,000 is, it's a rounding error in that world, is what a mid-tier YouTuber gets on a live stream about video games.
Wow, that is a massive, massive drop-off.
And it gets even worse. The source highlights that the Unrivaled games that did not feature Paige Buchers often struggled to crack 1,000 viewers.
1,000? I think my local high school football team gets more streams than that.
It completely neuters the threat. The union can't walk into a negotiation with a WNBA commissioner and say, if you don't pay us, we'll leave and go to Unrivaled, when Unrivaled is reaching fewer people than a late-night infomercial. It just doesn't work.
And the production value? It didn't look like the WNBA.
No, not at all. The source was actually pretty harsh on this point. It described the Unrivaled broadcast as looking like a glorified pickup league in a Miami warehouse.
Ouch.
It's harsh. But you can see the point from a broadcast optics perspective. You cannot replicate the atmosphere of a sold-out Barclays Center or Gainbridge Fieldhouse inside a soundstage. You don't have the history. You don't have the city-based rivalries that people care about. You don't have the stakes.
So the verdict from the source is that Unrivaled actually needs the WNBA way more than the WNBA needs Unrivaled.
By an order of magnitude, yes. The players need the WNBA platform. They need that massive ESPN and network distribution to build their brands and stay relevant. There was a quote from Natasha Cloud, a very vocal and respected veteran, who claimed they could play independent of the WNBA.
I remember that. She was very confident about it.
And the source frames that comment as bold but terribly timed. You can't credibly claim independence when your independent product is practically invisible to the general public. It just reinforces the fact that the WNBA hold all the cards because they hold the audience.
This all brings us back to the players themselves and their individual value. We talked about Angel Reese earlier and her CEO mindset. But I want to touch on something else from the source, because her leverage is directly tied to her performance. There was a lot of chatter last year, mostly from trolls on the internet, let's be honest, that her stats were empty calories.
Right, the stat padding narrative, that she was just getting rebounds off her own misses on a bad team. The source material goes out of its way to debunk this, to validate these stars as legitimate winning assets.
So what's the proof? How does it refute that?
It zeroes in on a specific 10-game stretch in the middle of last season. During that run, Angel Reese averaged 17 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists.
17, 15, and 6. That's a stat line from a center who thinks she's a point guard. It's wild.
It's elite versatility. But the most important stat during that stretch wasn't her own numbers. It was the team's record. The Chicago Sky went 5-5.
Which, for a team that was in a full rebuild, is actually really competitive basketball.
Exactly. It proves that her massive production directly contributes to winning basketball. It's not empty. And there's more context here that's vital. We know from reporting that both Angel Reese and Aaliyah Boston used this offseason, and the Unrivaled League, to be fair to it, as a dedicated training camp.
They got in the best shape of their lives.
They got faster, they got stronger, they transformed their bodies. So they are coming into 2026 not just as established stars, but as improved products ready to dominate.
And why does this specific point matter so much for the labor negotiation?
Because the players are the product. If Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are both publicly saying, I am ready, I am improved, I am playing, the union cannot logically stand in the way of that product hitting the market. You cannot hide your best assets in a warehouse when they are begging to be seen on national television.
It really paints a picture of the union leadership being completely stranded on an island. You have the corporate money from Nike, you have the massive fan interest, and you have the star talent all moving in one powerful direction toward playing the season. And the union committee is just standing there holding a stop sign that nobody is obeying.
That is the perfect visual. And eventually, if you stand on the railroad tracks with a stop sign while a freight train is coming, you don't stop the train, you just get run over.
So let's bring this all home. What is the inevitable outcome here? We have the bluff. We have the dog photo that called the bluff. Where do we land?
The bluff has been called. The cards are face up on the table for everyone to see. The source predicts a resolution is inevitable, and likely soon. A deal will be reached.
And will the players get paid after all this drama?
Oh, absolutely. That's the beautiful irony in all of this. They are going to get a massive raise. The source thinks it will land much closer to that 700% figure than the league originally wanted to offer.
But not because of the strike threat.
No, they will get paid because the money is actually there now. It exists. Thanks to Clark, thanks to Reese, thanks to the new media rights deal that came in because of them. Nike wants them to be paid and happy so they can sell shoes. The networks want them to be paid so there's no threat of a work stoppage in the future. All the powerful interests are aligned.
So in the end, everybody wins. The theater was just part of the process.
In the end, yes. The vision for 2026 is just too lucrative for everyone to let it fail. You're going to have a healthy Caitlin Clark. You're going to have the debut of Paige Bueckers, which, and I cannot stress this enough, is going to be a massive cultural event. You have Angel Reese leading a legitimate contender. You have Aja Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu in their primes. It is perfectly set up to be the biggest, most watched year in the history of the sport.
It really does sound like a happy ending. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought. Because we came very close, or at least the public rhetoric came very close to blowing this entire thing up.
We did. The threat was made. And this is the question I think we all need to sit with. What would have happened if the union actually did it? What if they ignored the stars, ignored Nike, ignored the business logic, and actually forced a cancellation of the 2026 season?
It would have been catastrophic, an all-time blunder.
It would have been a legacy killer. The source warns that the union would have been historically and forever branded as the entity that killed the biggest season in history. Imagine being the group responsible for stopping the ascension of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Bueckers in the very year they were supposed to take over the entire sports world.
That is a stain you don't ever wash off. You'd go down in history as the villains of your own story.
It would be a damning, self-destructive legacy. And I think that is the final, most important takeaway here. We are in a new era of sports. The traditional labor model, union solidarity, collective bargaining, us versus them, is being eclipsed by something new.
The power of the individual.
The power of the individual brand, backed by massive corporate power. In this specific case, Caitlin Clark and Nike decided the season is happening, and because they decided it, it is happening. Whether the negotiators officially agree to it today or next week, the outcome is already written.
It's a brave new world for the WNBA. The season is safe, the dog is welcome courtside,